ladies and gentlemen, introduce you to Mr. Darren McAntony, Mr. Darren Ferguson. First question we're going for is, Darren, if at 5 PM on the 26th of January 2019 we had just beaten Charlton Athletic 5-0 and we were top of the division, would you still have dismissed Mr. Evans that evening?
Yes.
Yes. Well, no, you know, sometimes it's one of them things they say in football. It's one of those quotes they say it's all about results. You live and die by results as a manager. Sometimes it's not always about the results. So at the end of the day, things don't work out for whatever reason. Obviously, we drew a lot of criticism. Well, I probably drew more criticism than anyone else for the decision. But you always feel you got to do what's best for the football club. You got to do what's best for your own relationships. And then you got to think down the road. So we parted fine. I know Bob probably, you know, didn't want us discussing it, whatever else. But we're very respectful of Steve Evans, and he will manage again. He's already been offered jobs in League One, and you know, I'm sure when the clubs who are in the relegation battles are all sorted out, or the clubs mid-table and their seasons are finished in May, he'll bounce back on a job. So he lives in the city. His family are here, so I'll always be respectful about him. I don't have any personal problem with Steve at all. We just couldn't work together and we move on. So that's the end of that. So the answer is yeah, it would have still been the same decision.
How's the stadium looking? Is there any update on some proposals or where we're looking to go with it?
We're ready. So, you know, my partner's me, we're ready. We're ready tomorrow. So really now, it's lawyers, it's contracts, it's time, but we're ready. We're ready to rock and roll. The money's in play, we're ready to go. And, you know, it'll be our home again. And hopefully that'll happen in the summer. I think the closing date is the summer, more or less. There's no point getting into specifics, because specifics can change, particularly when you're buying from a council. But look, we're working well with them, and my partners, particularly Jason, will have a bit more info on the actual closing and the deal itself in the coming weeks. But it's looking good.
The outside influence, the outside investors,
Right.
whether they would come with the old stadium or the new stadium, and how that would be a balancing act between outside investors and how that would work. Again, I think people would be interested once it was explained. It answers more questions than it raises.
Yeah, the reality is, if you stay where you are and you're refurbing an old dog and trying to upgrade it and whatever else, and you're trying to raise money, yeah, I mean, we're putting the money up to buy the place, and we would then go raise the money externally. That wouldn't be sitting on the club. Those loans wouldn't be sitting on the club itself. So if anything went wrong, those loans are on us as owners. That's why we're separating as regards to the stadium with us instead of the club. So in essence, we're actually doing the club a favour. If you go and buy a stadium, the club's to join with a stadium, and you start going and raising 30 million quid, and you put it on the club, that's when you put a club in the and that's where it can get really sticky and tricky. So the whole idea of what we're doing, and I've got two brilliant partners who are better at this kind of thing than I am, because I've got my own talents, and look, I've got an ego, so I'd like to say I can do it all, but I can't. But they're brilliant at what they do. And they've gone through the different scenarios. There's no point going through them now until we know where we are. We don't even own the place we have. So we just pay ridiculous rent. So let's get the first step of buying the place. And then once we've got our feet on the table doing that, then let's start exploring the options. And we will be transparent all the way with fans. We always have been. We will keep you haven't got anybody more transparent than me. Or my partners, to say the least. They're exactly the same as me. We've always been very direct with people about things, so that's where we are. It'll all be good news. The alternative to all of this is we keep paying 500 grand a year in rent and 300 grand a year in reparations for a place that's collapsing with asbestos, and a place where the players can't park anymore, and a place that just limits us in everything we do. I had to turn down Britney Spears and Little Mix, or Little Minx, or whatever they're called, last year. And Lionel Richie. I had to turn down 3 concerts last year that would have brought us 580 grand in an income. That could have gone on to our turnover, that would have helped us as a club. And I had to turn that money down because we couldn't expand to the 22,000, 23,000 they wanted, because of the safety restrictions and the access points and the exit points or whatever else. But the reality was we had to say no to those, and they went to Milton Keynes. So that's $500,000 for like 3 concerts. That's serious income, by the way. And it was my idea 3 years ago to bring concerts to our stadium. Now I know we've had, you know, Elton John, and we've had, I can't remember who else we've had, and we've got a couple of good ones this summer. But the idea of putting the pitch in, the idea of getting concerts there is that revenue is making it. Because I always said, we've got a stadium that basically is open 24, 25 times a year. How do we get it open 35, 40 times a year? And how do we make money non-footballing wise more and more? And those concerts was one thing. So that alone would be massive. You know, having concerts, boxing events, sporting events, you know, community events, because it's not only good for us, it's also great for the city. As I've always said this, and people used to laugh, that brings in millions to the city when you've got thousands of people over a weekend visiting. Anyone who owns a business, whether it's this place or anywhere else, is going to get the overflow, aren't they?
Yeah, I'm going back in time now. What is the reasoning behind selling George Boyd at such a crucial time of the season?
Yeah, because this came up last night where Steve Bruce said that it was the best 50 grand's worth of business he ever did. And I said straight away. And I looked through all the figures today and whatever. And basically what happened was we knew Boyd was out of contract. And we knew in January, the end of the final day of January, he went to Forest. And he did his medicals, remember? And then obviously he lost his eyesight along the way. And I obviously blew my top. And I went on Sky and you know, obviously was quite angry about the whole thing because the boy, and the gaffer will back me up here, was broken hearted. You know, I was speaking to George on the phone. His wife and his babies at the time were in a hotel room, and he's bawling his eyes outside the hotel room, so not to cry in front of his wife about the move breaking down. You remember that, gaffer, at the time, it was bad. And my way with the player, was said to the player was, and this is where I'm always the same, I'll stick to my word and he'll back this up. I said, George, get your wife and child, get in the car, come home. If the window's closed, I've got my move, and blah, blah. This was a big move, you know, big money. And I said, trust me, we will get you, before the loan window closes, we will get you a move that's better than the move to Forest. And this will all work out in the end. So that was my word to him. In the March, when the loan window was closed, and I believe it was March, and somebody needs to correct me here, with 3 months left on his contract, it was either Palace and someone, and then Hull came in, and we're talking, and true to my word, Hull wanted him. And I said to George, we would love you to stay, because we're doing brilliant, and we look like we're staying up, and he wanted to go. And true to my word, I said, okay, we will do the best we can, and because there was no guarantee Hull would have waited till the summer to sign him then. Steve Bruce was in promotion mode, wanted to go up to the Premier League, and wanted George Boyd to help them do that. Come the summer, he could have moved on, and the boy would have lost out on a second opportunity. So Barry, the genius he is, worked out a deal with Hull based on, it was a 350 grand loan fee, 300 grand promotion bonus, and another 300 grand if they stay up. We ended up making nearly £1 million on a player with 90 odd days left on his contract. I don't think that's been repeated in the Football League. So people say that cost us relegation that season. That's the biggest load of I've ever heard. Because we certainly didn't lack scoring goals all the way to the final day of the season, did we? When we lost 3-2. You know, cruelty. Yeah. So that's the story with George Boyd. I don't regret doing it. It was the right thing for him. And it's not sometimes just about us as a club, it's also about our players as well. And doing the right thing for them too. And he'd given us years of service, hasn't he?
Darren, what do you feel is the difference in you as a manager since the day you first arrived at London Road all those years ago and now? Too intelligent for me to think of.
Grey hair.
Yeah, a lot more grey hair. It's a long time ago, I think, what, 13 years now? Over 600 games. When you first start out, because I've gone straight from playing, as you know, into management, and the chairman brought me my first chance in management, things have changed so much in terms of how you are. Initially, as a young manager, you want to do everything. You want to be in charge of everything. But as you go on and you get more experience, you've also got to delegate a little bit more and things like that. When I left, the first time, the next job after that was probably the most important at Preston. In fact, the chairman and I were talking about it earlier. I learned so much in that year because I made so many mistakes when I first went into that job, because I just took everything on. It it was a championship club with a lot of experienced championship players. I'd gone from Peterborough, where it was also younger players, they were hungry, you know, the ones we brought in, whereas they're on big money, weren't really bothered if they played or not, and I found that difficult, but I learned so much in that year. And I took that into my other jobs, so just through experience in anything you do, walk of life, from experience you learn from mistakes. I think the most important thing is to learn from mistakes. You know, it's easy or easier when you have success. In the first 2 years of my management, it was very successful. And probably the chairman would agree, when we first had a sticky spell, I made mistakes. And the chairman would agree, he probably made mistakes, we sort of collided, and that's probably why I left. No, really, that's the truth, because we were so used to it was success. So you have to learn from your mistakes. You'd be stupid not to. So the biggest thing is that. In terms of management, there's no real point in looking for arguments with players or confrontations with players, and that'll always come to you. There's no point in, if you know what I mean, that will come towards me as a manager. So trying to make sure, biggest thing is to have the right environment on a daily basis, to have the right culture that players want to come to work hard, enjoy it, to make sure we've got a group that's all sort of pointing in the right direction. They're the main things that get you success, there's no doubt about that. Of course you need the ability, but if you look back at the success we had with the obvious players we can talk about, they weren't the most gifted, you know, technically Smithy, Mikel Smith and McLean, they used to drive me mental, but what a pair of hungry they were unbelievable. They just wouldn't stop. And sometimes that's enough. And, you know, obviously they got better and better as they went on. So I think when the chairman and I spoke about me coming back a third time, which no one in this room ever thought would happen, me included, we sort of want to rewind it a little bit if we can and go back to what we did. Bring younger players into the club, develop them, have the right characters, have ones that make the fans sit up and say, do you know what, that's a Peterborough United player, they're going to give us everything. And if we can go back to that, that's what we're going to try and do. But in terms of management, yeah, I have changed in the way certain things have happened, but I'm just as ambitious as I was from day one, there's no doubt about that.
Good, excellent. Yeah. And do you think your job will be made easier or less difficult with the improvements that have been made up at Orton, up at the Academy Centre and everything? Because obviously it was okay before, but now it's pretty outstanding, isn't it?
Yeah, it's a brilliant training ground. It was something I used to drive him mad with, because I used to say, we've got to do this with the training ground, and he'd be like, just win some games, will you? Just, you know. And I was like driving it, come on, we've got to get to this, got to do that, and so I always think of the future. Maybe that was part of the reason why, you know, things didn't go so great the last time. Maybe I just not took my eye off the ball, but I was pretty adamant about the training ground. So everything I wanted, he did when I was away, which was good about it. So now I've come back, it's all in place. The training ground's massive because you go up there on a daily basis, there's loads of people in there. Every day, there's just so many people because the foundation, the community people done an outstanding job, I have to say. And it's great to see kids with Peterborough shirts on, and always there. So a lot of people have got to take a lot of credit for what's happened in the training ground in terms of what goes on there. But yeah, it's really good. And obviously the new owners, Jason in particular, wants to invest in the academy, which I think is paramount to a football club, any football club, but particularly one of our size. We have to develop our own players. So yeah, the training ground is really good. It's a massive bonus.
It's really funny that always, you know, all the success in the promotions, we trained on a public park. Yeah. And the gaffer, biggest rows we'd have is he'd ring me twice a week and say, that with his dog is there again, all over the training. And my players have got to go out and train with all this dog shit everywhere. I used to say, what do you want me to do? Do you know what I mean? Hire someone to pick it up. And the players used to, even our McLean came back recently, he was like, Jesus, these players are so spoiled. We used to, get changed in the car park, go, not that same car park we're losing by the way, different car park, go out and train, then we go back to the stadium and have sandwiches in the David Seaman suite or whatever, and now they have obviously 4 pitches, a 3G, they've got a chef, and everything has changed so much, but we want all those promotions. So as a chairman you're thinking, well, the less you spend, the better they did. The more you spoil the the less better you do. It's almost like being married, isn't it? It's great when you're dating her, and then you put a ring on it. Yeah, you get my idea anyway. Oh, you're joking, baby, if you're listening to this. So yeah, that's the training ground. But we're delighted with it. He propelled that, and no matter what managers come after, he always wanted what's on the training ground. I think that's where probably was in the DNA with him when he came as a manager. He wanted to do lots of things he'd seen at a bigger level. The youth, the training ground, the facilities, and there's nothing wrong with that. You have to have a plan, but obviously you have to win while you have the plan, and he was able to do both.
Is there a sort of a figure in mind of a number of academy players that would come through over a 4-year period, for example? Obviously you could be lucky and 7 or 8, 9 could come in one season, you just don't know. But is there a sort of plan that X amount would come through over, say 4 seasons?
Well, I think it's been well documented that for the next 5 years' time we want two players through, Jim? Three. Which each year, I have to say, is difficult. It is difficult to do 3 players every year. But we want to promote it as best we can. Where I see it going is we've got to make sure that if we're going to be putting money into the academy, how that money is used. So the 2 things would be recruitment and coaches. And that's the main thing. Because if you've got players, say 14-year-olds and 15-year-olds, they're the most important age. Because by the time they get 16, they need to be ready in terms of technically, tactically. Not at 18, it's too late then. And I don't want my coaches having 2 years when they've become apprentices. Yeah, you've got to improve them, but they've got to be ready. So we'll have the coaches, we'll have someone developing the coaches, because the coaches have got to deliver for the younger players. So yeah, there's good plans in place. I'm excited about it, and that's, again, when we spoke, that had changed as well, because we're really big focus on the academy with the new owners.
Talking of the loans,
Sure.
Lee Tomlin,
Yep.
where are we at with that?
If he were to leave Cardiff, I believe Lee Tomlin would like to come to our football club.
I agree.
Yep. And I think the gaffer, if the gaffer had Lee Tomlin in December, like we had him for over 25 days, he would have been 20 pounds lighter. At least 10, 12 pounds lighter.
Yeah.
And you saw when he finally made his debut for us, he was the same size as when he first came to us, really. So, I'm not having to go with anyone, but the reality is, we invested a lot of money in him, and we had, thanks to Neil Warner was brilliant about this. He with Barry went and met him in London, and he said, look, the boy's head's all over the place, he's going to play for Cardiff again, can you help our football club and get him fit? And if you can do that, we'll do you a favour in January. Just keep it quiet, don't talk about it, get him fit, and I'll get him to you in January on loan for nothing, kind of thing. As a favour. And it was the right thing to do for Neil. We would do it for a lower league club if we had players struggling with their headspace. And we got him in, and we had 3 weeks to get him fit. He wasn't. And we were to keep it quiet. We didn't. And those 2 things cost me, us, the club, 100 grand for a mistake. So, yeah. Swanee's felt my ear over that, but it's not his fault, because he was, spoken to by the manager at the time. And the reality is, Lee Tomlin is a top player. You're not getting to see that at the moment all the time, but there are glimpses he's coming back to form. And last week, all the players had a couple of days off. Who was in with Lee Tomlin and those couple of days off? The gaffer, doing one-on-one sessions with him. And when you've got a player like that, it's like a Rolls Royce that's been left in the garage for 2 years. It hasn't had the engine turned over, and it needs a good workout, right? And it didn't get the workout. So, but anyway, we'd love to have Lee Tomlin back. Another manager would. And I guess if he gives us a freebie deal, we'll take him.
I'm voting.
No, can't have both of them. So, listen, no disrespect to George, and we love George and everything else, but, you know, he's 33 now. When you got players like Dembele and Maddison and that kind of talent, yeah, and Tomlin's only 30, so boy, you wouldn't get in our team. He would. Done. Give him a ring later. We'll bring him back. We'll bring them all back.
Just to finish on Lee Tomlin.
Sure.
From myself, I'd like to thank you for supporting him with his mental health issues.
No problems.
It's a massive thing
Yeah.
that men don't talk about, so well done.
No. Appreciate that. Look, 100%. You know, and there's nothing to be ashamed of admitting when you need help or you have issues, and I always say that to anyone. And I say it to my kids all the time. No matter what f***ups and mistakes you make or issues you have, and you talk, you tell us, you know what I mean? And it'd be the same anyone out there who's got problems. Tell somebody, tell me, no matter. And Lee, like many footballers who've got millions and all the trappings of life, they can still be unhappy. It still happens to them. They're still human beings. Money doesn't make a difference really to crap that happens to you. So I've spoken to him for probably the last year, messaging, talking all the time. And he really is, and I mean this respectfully, a simple creature in a way of he loves his football, loves his family, he's made mistakes, and he just wants to play. He's that kid on the park who wants to play football all the time. He's a good kid deep down. I know he's had his issues in court and all of that, but you see him, you spend time with him, he's a good boy. And that's where we were as a club. Even if he hadn't come to us, we would still have let him train with us till the end of the season. You know, if we couldn't have done that deal with Cardiff, that cost me money in the end. So, yeah, we like him, and hopefully we're signing his son to our academy, and his son's better than him.
And I'd love to be as fat as Lee Tomlin anyway. Junior?
What was your immediate thought when you got the call to come back to Posh?
I was sat in my kitchen with my wife, and I got an email from the chairman saying, "Do you fancy meeting up for a coffee?" And I went to Nicola and I said, "I've not read that right, I'll just read that." So my initial thought, I wasn't sure, I've got to be honest, I didn't know whether, because we'd seen each other at one of the games I'd come back, so I lived locally, and we hadn't seen each other for a long time, so maybe I thought it might be a chat. And in the first hour and a half, it was just a general chat about football. And I was kind of thinking, I haven't told him this, I was kind of thinking, is he going to ask me the question or not? Is he just going to keep chatting about football here? So I got round to it, and he explained the reasons, and I was delighted he asked, and I was delighted to come back, and that was my first thought. I'd had a break that I wanted and needed, but the one thing that you want as a manager, and listen, as you know, he sacked me twice, but for the right reasons for the football club, and he always makes the right decisions for the football club. You know, listen, we get on well, as you can see, and the second time he sacked me, I think it was difficult, but he did it for the football club, and he was right. I have to say the results weren't good enough. And we've always got a chance of championship football. And the one regret I've got over my 13 years is I haven't managed enough in the championship. There's no doubt about it, I need to get, and that's what I want to get to, and I want to get there with Peterborough. So you always know that at the start of the season, if we're in League One, regardless who the manager is, that club's got a chance of getting in the championship. So that was the biggest attraction. Want to do it this season, if we can. If not, I expect us to do it next season. So I was delighted to be asked. All right.
What's the best thing about being Posh manager? Having from forward.
I said it earlier. I said it's a very good job for a manager because you always think you've got a real good opportunity to get in the championship. So it's about the ambition of the chairman, which runs right through the football club. That helps me as a manager when I'm trying to sign players, because players are aware of that, and it's not always the case in League One. And it's exciting. It's always exciting. There's never really a dull day. And the chairman asked me earlier, "Are you enjoying it?" Absolutely loving it. I'm loving it because there's always a chance here. There's always an opportunity of progressing, of getting better. There's always that ambition, and it's the real something that drives you on. So that's the best thing, really. There's always that ambition, and that's so important for a football club and for a manager to know that.
A couple of times you were here, Darren, we played some excellent football on a rubbish pitch. Now we've got a really good pitch. Can we foresee seeing some really good football again?
So what you're saying is we've got a good pitch for rubbish football, is that what you're saying? No, you didn't quite. No. Yeah, the pitch is outstanding. It's the best pitch in the league. If you look at it now at this stage, compared to some of the other ones we played on, are going to play on, obviously Saturday being one. It's a very good pitch. There's been a lot of work gone into it. Again, the chairman got the great pitch when I was away, so I think he was just trying to piss me off. The training pitch is exactly the same, so yeah, there's no excuses there. We do a lot of sessions actually on the stadium pitch now in the last 3 or 4 weeks. So you know, I'm delighted the pitch is in such a good condition. The people that do the work on it are good. So yeah, listen, you know how I want to play. You know we want to play exciting football. We've got some very, very good players, there's no doubt about that. It can take a while, I'm not making excuses, it can take a while to get used to how a manager works compared to the manager that was in the job previously. Because, yeah, listen, that's no slight on Steve. Every manager's got their own way of wanting to play. And the most important thing is to win games through it. The difficult thing for us is we couldn't get up to speed because we couldn't get momentum when I first came in because we got so many sending offs. It was a real problem. So now we've got back-to-back wins. Hopefully we can kick on a little bit. But we're in a part of the season where I've had to sacrifice certain things that I want to do long term, next season perhaps, because you know certain things that they're maybe not up to speed yet. So the most important thing is getting wins. But yeah, listen, of course we want to see exciting football, and their pitch is fantastic. I have to say, it's the best in the league. It's the best in the league.
You got any thoughts on what home performance been so bad?
Yeah.
For 4 years, whatever.
Yeah.
It's been a while now.
Well, I would no, because it was like statistically it wasn't. We were like top 8 last year, home form. Yeah, the way we played this season, I think too many away teams came and enjoyed our pitch. And I think if you don't play a certain style, I think we won early on, and then people sussed us out at home. That we're very much a counter-attacking physical team, and if people wanted to give us and let us have the football at home, which the home team should always have the football and dominate the football, our players were set up in a way we didn't know what to do with the football. So we lost a lot of games, and it was too comfortable for away teams coming. So I think back now, and I think in June when I agreed to do the pitches, I'm thinking, what was I thinking? Knowing the way we play, we didn't need a beautiful pitch, you know, in fairness, but I would seriously suspect we will have phenomenal home form in the next couple of years, for sure.
You're a very close friend of mine. Seems to think you won't be here next season, Darren.
Okay. Who's the close friend? Right. Why not ask the question yourself?
It's more of a professional league because you're a man that I would like to think wouldn't leave the club in the lurch.
Sure.
So you brought in the 2 Canadian owners.
Sure.
Get them a beer.
Sorry, I keep picking up the empty one.
You're bringing them.
Tardy service in here, leaving all the empties. Sorry, carry on.
You're bedding them in, getting to know the club, and leaving them in good hands.
You broke my phone or something. Hey, I don't work in the Marriott, do you?
Being set up. Never malicious. It was more a case of you know the professionalism in you would move the club on to new owners with their own plans,
Yeah.
etc.
Look,
in that way.
I've always said to you guys, didn't I, that if I left, I'd leave it in good shape.
Exactly.
And I definitely leave it with good people.
Yeah.
I mean, I was thinking about bringing in the ex-Leyton Orient down there as punishment, you know, for some of the trolling that I've had to endure. But no, I would always, definitely, people who know me, I would do the right thing and definitely put the club in a good place. yeah, I'm not going to lie. When I did the deal, it was based on me not being here for the right reasons, and they wanted me here. So I changed my mind. So that was a year ago or whatever that was. But yeah, I was gone. So, and now I'm loving it. I'm enjoying it. I've never had partners in my life. I'm really enjoying having partners. They're good guys. And that's easy to say, and I could give you lip service, but genuinely they're good guys. I've not had one bad word with any of them, or a row with any of them, or a ruck with any of them. They're very supportive, they're very hands-off, and hands-on when they need to be. And they can do things I can't do. I think the three of us make a really good team. Maybe the new Trinity. But there's been no...
You'll never be as good as that.
Yeah. When I was in Dubai recently on holiday, and I went on a blocking spree and blocked like 300 people, but that was more to the point of losing 3 games in a week, and some of the abuse that gets thrown my way. And I would never lie, sometimes you get down, even being me, and I'm a super positive person. I'm a human, so I do get down. And, if it affects my family or my children or whatever, my mood, my temperament, that's something I always have to consider, right? Because I would never want anything to affect their lives. I want them to be happy. So, but I'm very happy as chairman of the club. But I've always said, if I felt people didn't want me as chairman of the club, I'd have no problem stepping aside. Not an issue.
Do you think in hindsight? Do you think in hindsight that's probably just what you needed, without realising at the time that maybe you needed it?
Yeah, I think it was the right move. As I said, I always do the right thing. So it was the right thing to do. To bring. It wasn't a financial thing. People can throw that at me, but I've always run the club really well. I've always paid the bills. You see a lot of clubs out there at the moment not paying their bills. We've never been, at the High Court for a wind-up or not paying our players. I've always done that. I think the opportunity arose. They were buying another League One club, and somebody asked me to meet with them, and I did that when I was in Vegas one morning. I was out there watching a fight, funny enough. And me being the salesman I am without even realising, I put them off buying this other League One club, and they were making me offers to buy Peterborough. So it just worked out really well. And I'm enjoying it. I'm enjoying their company. I'm enjoying working with them. And I'm enjoying learning new things. But I think you're never too old to learn new tricks and new things, even at 43. And I'm learning all the time. And I think they're learning as well. And they're really enjoying it. So I think things are going to be really good for the club in the years to come, trust me. Whether I'm here or not.
What do they bring individually? What do the two partners bring in individually?
Randy is very similar to me, funny enough. And he'd probably be more as temperamental as me, which isn't a bad thing, by the way. He will take losses like I do. It's the end of the world. Blah, 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 blah. But what he's really good at is he's really good at bringing people together, finding ways to do the impossible financially and different things. And he looked at a lot of the commercial and the fan base stuff and whatever else, and we were having the beer gardens and we were doing all the pre-entertainment before we get. There's lots of stuff he adds to the mix. Jason is a lot more pragmatic, a lot more feet in the ground, a lot more of a thinker, deep thinker, and the easiest guy in the world to get on with, very approachable, a real academic, completely opposite to myself and Randy. Jason's got degrees coming out of his armpits. And as a football fan, loves his football, big Southampton fan, and a family guy. And it's a really good mix, to be fair. We all have our individual strengths and we all have weaknesses. None of us are perfect. And I guess I'm the hothead, and I guess someone like Jason would be the calmer influence, and Randy could go either way. And he joins me as the hothead. It's like two volcanoes, and then the ice age coming in to calm us down. So it's like, yeah, it's a good mix, and it's worked really well so far. And I'm disappointed for them, the way the season went. And obviously it wasn't, we've had those losses and it didn't pan out, and they came in last year and similar to what happened, it's like Groundhog Day. So I'd love them to enjoy. I was good for them in the checker trade when we blew it against the Portsmouth under 21s. That was a game we should have won. We were 2 games from Wembley, because I wanted them to experience what I've experienced. Going to Wembley, to the Royal Box, watching your team win a trophy at Wembley is, you can't It's brilliant. Nothing beats it.
On that,
Geez,
on that subject, Darren,
yes.
if things don't go to plan next season,
Sure.
are you going to give Darren the time? He's proved he can.
Darren will be my final manager.
Because he's proven he can construct promotion-winning teams, and we have had a bit of a merry-go-round, a different man for the last 3-4 years, and I think we need to give him time because he will come good for us.
He'll be my final manager.
Absolutely, yeah.
Ah, right. That opens up a couple of questions, as you well know, young man. Right. So, is he your final manager? Meaning he stays and you goes if things don't go quite as well as you would want?
No, I would stake my reputation on that. If I got this one wrong, I would go. You know, if this one didn't work out. So I won't be in a rush to fire him next January now.
What is the most enjoyable game you've ever witnessed?
Most enjoyable game I've ever witnessed. One of the most enjoyable games for me, because I didn't enjoy Colchester or Huddersfield or any of those at the time. I was stressed to bits. So it wasn't a very enjoyable experience. The end result was brilliant, but before there was 90 minutes of paralysis and paranoia and going cuckoo, stress, worry. Probably one of the most enjoyable games was the Accrington Stanley 8-2, Brentford 9-1.
Ipswich 7-1.
Ipswich 7-1. The MK semi-final was probably one of the weirdest surreal experiments ever, where I floated out of my body and watched myself where I didn't move for 90 minutes. But I never felt we were going to lose that game or not win that game like we had to. But yeah, Huddersfield, I didn't enjoy the 90 minutes. Even at 3-0 up, I was still paranoid we'd throw it away because, you know, you're just in that trance. So yeah, there's been some. Look, most of those enjoyable days were with this guy next to me, not 80. The gaffer is left. No, sorry, and there'll be many more enjoyable days as well. You know, I don't. It just affects you differently as you get older, I guess. You know, when I was younger and more brash and more arrogant, things didn't bother me. Things didn't bother me as much. The older you get, I don't know if it's an age thing. You just, yeah. I mean, I'm a funny fish when I watch football games. Very superstitious. Don't talk to me during a game. Don't come up to me during a game or after a game. I'm just that way. That's the way it is. I don't think that's a good thing, by the way. One of the reasons I was thinking about leaving the game. Yeah.
1 year today.
Yeah.
Where do you see us? Not hope, but
it would be easy to say, oh, you know, promoted, the championship, whatever else. A lot more excited about where we're going than I was 1 year today, last year.
Jen?
I heard you mention outside that you're superstitious.
Right. It's fucking Easter.
And the last time you did a Q&A in here,
yeah,
we won promotion.
I think so, yeah. I do.
How confident are you about that?
So it'll be Pisa's fault if we don't go up.
There you go. Whee! Barry will be happy. I wrote us off after Coventry. I said to the gaffer, now, fucking, you know, we're gone, you know, mentally. So let's just plan for next season. So I made a conscious decision to basically write off the season after we lost to Coventry. And I thought, no, the players won't win another game. So since then they've won 2 in a row. So I'll say it again, I've completely written us off for the season. They won't win another game. And hopefully they win the next 2 in a row as well. So that, you know, football's a funny thing, you know, and you just think when it's over and things are done, stranger things have happened. So I know Donny and I know McCann, they're very, very confident. He saw Barry at the EFL Awards the other night and he thinks they've got their mojo back and he thinks they'll win their last 5 games quite easily. So that means if we win all 6 and they win all 5, it won't matter, they'll be in the playoffs. That's on us. So, and I knew in January that was coming. I just knew. So, it is what it is. We get on with it, and we finish 7th, 8th, or 9th, and we get on with it, and we'll come back next season and we'll try and win automatic promotion of the title. So, simple as that.
Do you share the opinion of a lot of fans that it would be a veritable nightmare if we got in the playoffs. Do you share the view that some of them think that we'd probably get absolutely hammered?
I think when we had our previous manager, it's why I made the change. I felt we would have no chance against Barnsley, we would have no chance against Charlton, we would have no chance against Portsmouth, Sunderland, whereas this time, I feel the opposite. If we get in the playoffs, I would put my everything on us winning. Everything.
Okay.
Do you rate Joe Ward and what future does he have in Posh?
Oh,
We're offering Joe a new contract. He's got 2 years left, but he came in on, you know, a lot less than normal players are on. He's made more appearances than anyone else. Multiple managers have rated him. A lot of Posh fans typically will probably not rate him as much as the managers, but he's an unsung hero. I think he is. I think if Joe looked in the mirror and realised how good he could be, he could play in the Championship all day long. But I think sometimes he's such a nice guy, and he's one of them, that if we could just put a little bit of a fucker in him, I think he'd be an unbelievable player. He is lightning quick, he's physically strong, he's got an engine, and I think, yeah, he could be. I actually think he could be one of the best right backs in League One.
I was just about to say,
never mind as a winger.
The Mark Little.
Yeah, I've said it to the gaffer, but nobody's ever coached him to be a right back, so it's a tough one. Yeah.
Yes.
You know, when you see, you know, how do you like get players? Like, do you like go see him yourself, or do you?
No.
Do you know what I mean?
So what we'll do, I'll give you an example on Dembele. So it can be the most simple thing you've ever seen in the world. 18 months ago, I remember getting a phone. It was a Sunday morning. I was at Fago having breakfast. I always remember this. Somebody rang me and said, "Have you seen this kid at Grimsby? He was in the Nike Academy." And I'm like, "No, what's his name?" He's like, "Dembele." And I'm like, "The fellow from Scotland at Celtic." He goes, "No, he's his brother." I said, "Oh, right, okay." So I rang Grant McCann. And Grant McCann had also been told by other coaches about him. So Grant then goes to see him. He then comes back to me and he goes, yeah, all day long, sign him. So then Barry rings Fenty at Grimsby. Fenty at Grimsby goes, £1 million. So obviously the phone goes, dead. And we leave it. So then the season ends. We've obviously bombed Grant out with Roy. And we get a sniff of Dembele is now available and a name for £1 million. So it's for a hell of a lot less, 9 times less. So we basically pounce. We find out he's at another League One club, a big club, and we get the phone. We twist his agent's arm as best we can, and he leaves their training ground and comes to ours and signs. So that's a typical scenario there. We do a lot more analysis than usual on that with Dembele. I have gone to games. I've been to 2 games in the last 7 days. On players, the gaffer and Barry, and we've all thought, okay, yeah, he'll do. So sometimes I go see them myself. Not all the time. We do have now our own internal 2 scouting team, as I said to you, Operation Gem earlier on. So we're seeing a lot of players at the moment and a lot of talent out there. But the final decision, the final call, and this was something that was really important after the Steve Evans scenario, was the football club has to recruit the players going forward, in my opinion, and I recommended that to the board, regardless who the manager is. We have to recruit the players. Now, I'm not saying I'm recruiting the players. I'm saying our football department, like Chelsea do, like whatever else, have to recruit the players what are best for our club. Because we've had too many managers who recruit the players who are not right for our club, who've been on silly money, been catastrophic transfers, and it's cost us. Our managers have come in and left too soon. The club has to recruit what's best for the club.
Yeah, you talk about youth. How do you think Matthew Ellington and Sam Davis are doing?
Brilliant. I've offered them a pay rise. I think brilliant.
Yeah.
Brilliant. Love them.
They were 2 of the best.
Really enjoyed it this season. I think they're.
When we played that FA Cup,
Bit of attack by Lion.
I've seen some pussy in my time, but I tell you what.
Have you watched the Sunderland Netflix?
Yes.
And would you do a
No, I turned down 200 grand for a Big Ron sequel.
Oh my God.
So I don't think any manager would want that kind of access and address. I understand what Sunderland did it, by the way. It was a great show, and I think the win promotion this year it'll be brilliant. I love the Man City one, all or nothing.
Yeah, that's better.
But I would maybe do it if we're in the Championship. Maybe not at the moment. So you give me an idea.
Oh, thank you. Right, give me a